Is there anything better than the heavenly mix of chocolate and peanut butter in Reese's Peanut Butter Cups? Whether you're craving something sweet or salty, they always deliver. Let's take a look inside the history of this classic American candy.
What's he doing?
He's got our peanut butter and our chocolate.
Sounds good.
Reese's Peanut Butter Cups.
You might think that the culinary genius behind Reese's is a lifelong candy maker, but that's not the case at all. Harry Burnett, or H.B. Reese, labored away at a long list of jobs before he ever came up with the idea of making candy. He was a factory worker, a farmer, and even the manager of a fish hatchery, all before he became a dairy farmer employed by none other than Milton Hershey. Even then, the road to success wasn't a straight one. Reese found himself needing to make some extra cash to support his growing family, and in 1919, he met a man at a Harrisburg, Pennsylvania market who gave him a recipe and asked him to make hard candies. It didn't work though, and the candies stuck together, so it was back to the drawing board. Reese tried making a candy bar named after his daughter, as well as a coconut caramel bar, and then he finally started making candies with various centers covered in chocolate. Originally, the chocolates came in assorted boxes, and the centers included cherries, dates, coconut, and of course, peanuts. The last one was the foundation of a great idea.
I love peanut butter, but I never tried it with chocolate.
H.B. Reese always used fresh ingredients for the centers of his candies and Hershey's chocolate to go along with them. In 1917, he started working on one of Hershey's dairy farms before he eventually made the jump to the chocolate factory. He was still working for the company when he decided to strike out on his own. He quit his job in 1923, but first he went to Milton Hershey and asked for his permission to set up his own candy company. Hershey allowed that, under the stipulation that all of Reese's chocolate had to come from the Hershey Company. He agreed, and 5 years later, a simple suggestion would change the course of the company. A shop owner whom Reese was visiting on a sales call asked him if he could make something that was peanut butter on the inside and chocolate on the outside. Obviously, he said that he could, and it would go on to become the company's flagship product. In 1963, Hershey purchased Reese's, 7 years after Reese died of a heart attack. This development wasn't terribly surprising, as Milton Hershey always had some peanut butter cups in his desk. The two longtime friends and collaborators remained close, even after the end of their lives, as they were laid to rest just meters apart in Hershey Cemetery. It's easy to forget that luxuries like air conditioning haven't been around forever, and when you're working with chocolate, heat can cause some serious problems, and it absolutely did for Harry Burnett Reese. Throughout the 1930s, his company was faced with a huge problem. In the summer months, it was just too hot to make chocolate candies. Everything would simply melt, and this was well before there was a quick and affordable solution to counteract that. Chocolate was thus off the table, quite literally.
My chocolate! My beautiful chocolate!
Don't just stand there, do something!
Help, please.
But if the company wanted to remain afloat, it needed to keep employees busy and pay the bills. To find a solution, Reese turned to a completely different industry to keep the lights on: canning. Employees would can beans and tomatoes when they couldn't make chocolate. They did everything by hand, from prepping the vegetables to putting the labels on the cans. Who would have thought that we have tomatoes to thank for keeping Reese's around? Reese's started out making all sorts of candy, but nowadays they focus squarely on peanut butter cups and associated products like Reese's Pieces. Part of the reason is the simple fact the cups were an outstanding success. Family lore says that when H.B. Reese was first trying to figure out how to make his peanut butter cups, he roasted his peanuts until they were on the verge of burning. That's what still gives Reese's peanut butter that distinctive, unmistakable taste. Times were tough during the lean years of the Great Depression, but sales were strong, and so Reese was able to weather the worst of it. But then came World War II, and with it, food rationing. Sugar was on the top of the list of ingredients that were suddenly in limited supply, and even though Hershey shared some of his stock with Reese, it wasn't enough for him to keep up with demand. Some of his candies simply had to go, and in the end, he kept only the peanut butter cup. It was a practical decision that ended up being a very good one, since the peanut butter cups required the least amount of sugar to make. Ad campaigns can make or break a product, and in the case of Reese's, their biggest ones definitely helped raise their profile. You might think that a well-established brand would want to market its longevity, but Reese's actually did the opposite. In the 70s, the company launched a major campaign by pretending that the candy was something new, and that most people didn't even like the idea of chocolate and peanut butter together. How it all came together was a little strange. Chocolate-covered peanut butter candies had been sold as early as 1907, and when Hershey bought Reese's in 1963, the peanut butter cups were a huge hit. In fact, by 1969, they were Hershey's best-selling candy. Despite all that, when the peanut butter cups got their very first national ad campaign, they were marketed like a brand new idea that might seem gross, but was actually delicious. The premise was simple. The commercial showed two people, one eating chocolate and one eating peanut butter. They would then collide into each other and say,
"You got peanut butter on my chocolate."
"Well, you got chocolate in my peanut butter."
Bravissimo!
After the initial shock, the chocolate and peanut butter eaters would then realize the amazing combination they had stumbled upon. You might be wondering, why act like an already popular product is something new that people had to be convinced to try? Hershey wanted to firmly cement the relationship between Reese's and Hershey in the public's mind. Rebranding made people associate the candy with something the Hershey company had created, and thus they got all the credit.
Two great tastes that taste great together. Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. Real milk chocolate, delicious peanut butter.
In the 1970s, Hershey launched a new product that was originally called PBs. These candy-coated peanut butter bits were eventually renamed Reese's Pieces, and you'd think that the name Reese's would have been enough to make them a major hit. At first, they kind of were. They had a successful launch, but it wasn't long before sales started tapering off. That's not something any company wants to see, but an opportunity presented itself when Universal Studios came along. The studio had an upcoming movie called E.T., and they wanted to let Hershey know that Reese's Pieces were going to be in the movie. Unsurprisingly, the candy company jumped at the chance to help promote the film. Hershey took a gamble and agreed to give Universal about $1 million worth of marketing for E.T., without even seeing a script.
E.T. Home phone.
In hindsight, it's clear how smart a deal that was. But at the time, there was no guarantee that the hefty wad of cash would be a solid investment. Ultimately, though, it paid off. Sales of Reese's Pieces skyrocketed. But it could have gone very differently. The team behind E.T. originally planned to use M&Ms, but when the Mars company declined the offer, that paved the way for Reese's. Chocolate is great and all, but it's Reese's unique peanut butter that really makes its candy amazing. If you're a big peanut butter junkie, you should know that not all Reese's are created equal, and fortunately for you, someone's done the math so that you know just what you should splurge on. A Reddit user who goes by the name Rusted took a handful of various Reese's candies, scraped out the peanut butter, and weighed it all to come up with a definitive chocolate to peanut butter ratio rating. The findings might just surprise you. The Reese's Small Heart contains the least amount of peanut butter, with just around 19%. Minis also come in pretty low, as they're around 28% peanut butter.
Where is it? Where's the rest?
On the flip side, the Reese's Egg and Heart have a much more generous share of about 60% peanut butter. The Pumpkin and the King size come in just below that, with a touch over 50% peanut butter. So all you peanut butter lovers out there should keep in mind that Valentine's Day and Easter are the best time to stock up on your stash for the year. Halloween is a great time of year, but it typically comes with a certain amount of disappointment.
I got a chocolate bar. I got a quarter. I got a rock.
There's always candy left in the bag that nobody on the block actually wants. But Reese's doesn't have to worry about that, and in 2018, the company came up with a pretty awesome way to demonstrate its superiority. This was achieved by taking to the streets of New York City with a giant orange machine. The idea was simple. People would drop in their unwanted Halloween candy and get peanut butter cups in return. The machine was ready, willing, and able to give out around 10,000 peanut butter cups in just the 5 hours it was out and about, and it was a massive hit. Sadly, though, it seems as though that debut was its one and only appearance, although Hershey spokespeople hinted that they might deliver the Reese's Candy Exchange to other cities in the future. Maybe if we all ask nicely, it'll end up going on a national tour soon enough.
What did you think about the machine? Did you like it?
Yeah, I've never seen anything like that.
Nobody's perfect, and sometimes things slip through the cracks. That's even happened with something as awesome as Reese's. But there's a valuable lesson to be learned here. If you ever happen to get a Reese's without the peanut butter, you should reach out to the company via social media. In 2018, an Iowa man named Alex Henches headed over to Reese's Facebook page to post about his peanut butterless peanut butter cup and asked what the heck was going on.
Have you ever heard the expression, the customer is always right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, here I am.
The company responded, at first telling him that they were going to be sending him some coupons to replace his defective Reese's. But when the mail arrived a few days later, the delivery was something much more substantial, as Henches was sent a letter of apology and a massive box containing about 5 pounds worth of various Reese's candy. A Reese's spokesperson told Today Food, "We're still not sure how exactly the peanut butter vanished, but everyone knows it can't be a Reese's peanut butter cup without the peanut butter, so the brand had to make things right. Now that's just great customer service." Reese's mix of chocolate and peanut butter is nothing short of magical, and it turns out that there's a scientific principle behind it. It's something called dynamic sensory contrast. Taste buds essentially love it when you eat something with contrasting textures, like the smoothness of the chocolate and the slightly crunchy peanut butter. When you couple that with another contrasting combination, like the sweetness of the chocolate and the saltiness of the peanut butter, then you've got a winning team that no one can resist.
It's science.
This principle is also called the ice cream effect, and it's why there's always room for ice cream even after the biggest of dinners.
Oh,
What do you think?
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
You should be very proud.
Thank you very much.
There's a catch though, as these contrasting flavors and textures are so good that it can make you forget how much you're eating. So if you've ever powered your way through half a bag of minis without realizing it, you can say that it wasn't because you're a glutton. It's just science. Essentially, these contrasting flavors can taste so good that it overrides our sense of feeling full.
What do you think? You love it! You love it!
Really good.
Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more MASH videos about your favorite stuff are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.